as I started traveling so much, people were like, what the heck do you do, Brian? Like even people on like social media that I don't even know would reach out to me and be like, are you a trust fund kid? Like how do you have money to just do whatever you want to do and travel the world and all those kind of things? And they were picking my brain. And so the word started to get out that I was doing Airbnb, and I started answering questions and started answering longer email questions. And before I knew it, people were like, hey, can you like talk to me on the phone? And I was like, well, it just turned into this whole thing where I started teaching it. And that's how I got into teaching this. And I just told people, look, I created a proven system for finding other people's properties, listing them on Airbnb, and then, most importantly, outsourcing and automating nearly everything. And that's what I told people that I did. And I'm going to show you this is exactly how it works. We're going to break it down. There are really just 7 steps to building an Airbnb empire. And these are the 7 steps. Prep, partner, locate, stage, list, launch, and automate. And then I guess, the 8th step would be repeat the process. Okay? Those are the 7 steps. And I'm going to go through each one of these. Now keep in mind, I can't tell you everything you need to know about every single step or we'd be here for days and days and days. But what I'm going to do is tell you the best things that you need to know, the most important things. So if you're thinking about doing this for yourself, these are the things you absolutely need to know. So let's just go through them real quick. Step 1 is all about creating massive credibility. Who are we creating credibility with? Well, the owners. In order to get a yes from property owners, you need to have several tools in place first. Now this isn't going to apply if you already have your own properties. You can just use your own properties, but most of us don't just have a couple spare properties laying around that are vacant, right? So this is the easiest way to get started. One of the tools you want to have in place is a website. And the website's critical. You can get one set up nowadays so cheaply. I'm talking like 20 bucks a month, already built for you. You just put in your name and put in the text that you want, and you're off to the races. I mean, it's so simple to do nowadays. You don't have to be technical at all. But the reason you want to set up a website is it builds credibility with somebody. So when they talk to you about what you do, the first thing they're going to do is go home and look you up online. If they don't find anything about you, you have a business card with no website on it, guess what? They're not going to take you seriously. I learned this by doing this, and I found that as soon as I did it, I was like, the response was totally different. And that's just one tool. Another tool that you want to have is insurance. You want to make sure that you're protecting not just yourself, but the owner. You want to protect yourself for liability. You want to protect the owner. The owner's going to say, well, what happens if this? What happens if somebody gets hurt? What if somebody burns my house down? All these questions that they have, right? Well, the cool thing is nowadays it's very easy to do. There's actually insurance that's designed just for this business specifically. Entire industry has sprung up to insure short-term hosting. And it's very cheap, like 50 to 90 bucks a month. So that's just one of those costs that I told you. When I tell you the net cost for each property, that's one of the costs involved. So I'm not paying it, but the income's paying for it. And when you go back to an owner and you say, guess what, I'm going to insure your property, they've never heard that before. No tenant has ever offered to insure their property, right? So I learned these things. I started getting objections from owners, and I just started plugging those holes and figuring out what it is that they need to feel comfortable. And there's actually a dozen prep tools like this. These are just 2 that I showed you. And I'll give you one more example, which is landlord letters. Landlord letters are something that I created myself. It's simply a letter that I leave with people, and at the top I have my name and the name of my company, and then on the bottom it just says, here are the 9 things that are 9 reasons you'd want to work with me instead of a traditional tenant. And it says things like, I'm going to insure your property. I'm going to make sure your property is professionally cleaned 3 times a week by a professional cleaning company. It's going to be kept to the most immaculate standards you've ever seen. People like me that are hosts are not going to come kick the door in at 2 a.m. because the ex shows up, or have a dog that claws his way through the front door, or I'm not going to repaint the bedrooms without your permission, and all of these things, right? My guests don't smoke in the properties. They don't show up and throw huge parties, or it's just actually less wear and tear for having short-term guests, because short-term guests generally don't use a washer and dryer much. They're staying for 1 or 2 nights. They're not going to smoke in the property. They're not going to do a lot of things that you'd see longer-term tenants doing. And keep in mind, my business is to make sure that people are happy and like the listing, so I have to keep it in absolute top-notch shape. Does that make sense? So you explain this thing to them, to the owners, with the landlord letter. And nowadays, it's just something that I give to my students. They can just put their name on it, print it out, and bring it with them, and it just opens doors. So that brings us to step 2. Now, step 2 is partner. And partner is all about setting up, for example, like your front desk. Most people don't even know you can hire a virtual front desk now for Airbnb. So it's very important that you get this done right away so you can be working on your business and not in your business. Because what you're doing is you're kind of running like a little hotel, right, once you get enough of these going. And any hotel needs a front desk. Somebody's got to take care of the guests, right? But what you can do is if you learn how to use a virtual front desk, you do this right, you'll be able to work very part-time hours while yet earning that full-time income. And I learned how to do this. I'm going to give you a real-world example here. So for example, my guest says, hey Brian, is a place available these dates on Airbnb, right? They message me and they say, hey Brian, how close is the nearest gym? Well, can I get a discount if I book for a week or a month? Then when they get there, they're going to say, hey Brian, where are the towels? What do I do when I check out? Where's this? Where's that? They message me again and again and again, and I used to answer all of these myself, even at 2 in the morning. But my life now is a guest checks in, a guest checks out, and I never talk to them. Seriously. Now that's what I call cooking with grease, if you know what I mean, right? And here's how it works. This is Joe Schmo, okay? Now Joe is my guest staying in one of my places, and Joe has a question. So he's going to text me, he's going to email me, he's going to send me a message through Airbnb, right? Even before he stays or after he stays or during his stay. Now those questions used to be answered by me. But now they're going to be answered by my virtual front desk 24 hours a day. And yes, it is manned by real live people. And they're going to get back to Joe Schmo and answer his questions. And that process is going to continue again and again and again every time he reaches out. And meanwhile, I'm over here enjoying my life and my wife. And the only time that I hear from my virtual front desk is when they have a question that they can't answer. So an example would be, hey Brian, Joe over at 123 Main Street doesn't know where the packages get delivered and we don't have it in our files. Can you tell us where the packages come in? And I say, oh yeah, they're in the front hallway at this one area is where the packages get dropped off. Will you please put that in my policies and procedures? So now they don't have to ask me that question again. And then as I use the service longer and longer and longer, they actually communicate with me less. You see how powerful this is? This is like the biggest part of the job right here. And this can all be done for a very small fee. I mean, a really small fee. In fact, my question to you would be, would you rather make 100 cents on every dollar that comes in, or would you rather make 95 cents on every dollar and not have to do this? So I'd rather just make 95 cents. So that's what I did. I set this up. And there are 6 of these partners. This is just one. And they're all virtual. We're not talking about going out and hire employees. That's not what I'm about. Pretty cool, huh? They're also real-life partners. Now, real-life partners I do talk about quite a bit, which these are real people that if you feel like you don't have any money or no credit or no time, no problem. This is where you bring real-life people on board to partner with. Now, keep in mind, I did this with very little money, and I had absolutely no credit when I started. And I found the time, but I'm just throwing this out there because there are many creative ways to do this, especially if you can find somebody that has the resources that you don't have. Does that make sense? So I'm not going to spend too much time on that because I hope you guys are resourceful and you can figure that out. But real-life partners can come in very handy. That brings us to step 3, which is locate. Now, locate stage is all about finding the golden goose properties. And what we're going to do, in order to do this, we're going to focus only on owners, okay? So what I mean by that is I don't want you to go talk to property management companies. Please don't. It's a waste of time. Don't talk to large apartment complexes. Don't talk to REITs. Don't talk to any of those. Talk to the people that have their name on the deed. Talk to the actual owners. That's how you get the yeses. That's how you get, trust me, I've tried it all. That's the one you want to focus on, only directly to owners. Don't talk to managers. And what I found is these landlord letters, they really do work. Now, I'll give you an example. Just a few weeks ago, I had an older gentleman that called me up. He's like, Brian, he left me this voicemail. I didn't know who this guy was, because it had been a few months. And I met with this guy and gave him one of my letters, and he called me up, left a voicemail. I was like, hey, Brian, I'd like to meet with you, son. Have some coffee and talk about your letter that I got here. So I called him up, and I set up coffee with him, and we went and met, and we sat down. He's like, Brian, I own 30 properties all over this town, and I'll tell you what, son, I'm tired of these college students. I'm tired of them destroying my property. I'm tired of them disrespecting my property. I'm kicking them out. And in fact, I have 5 vacant properties right now, and you can have all 5 if you want them. All right, and I looked at him in the eye, and I said, yes, sir, if you'll do month to month. And he said, sure, month to month's fine. And then he proceeded to ask me, what do you do exactly? How do you make money? And I told him exactly what I did. And he's like, oh, that's awesome. I don't get into that technology stuff and blah, blah, blah. And there you go. That happened from one landlord letter. And you'll find that sometimes if you get in with the right person, they own more than one property. So if they like you and it works, then they sometimes will give you more properties. So these landlord letters, they really do work. People, circumstances change. And the key here is when you meet with somebody, you are interviewing them, not the other way around. So you're going in and you're saying, hey, I want to check out your property and see if it's a fit for what we do. And if it's not a fit, no big deal. I just want to explain to you what we do and see if it might work for you. And who cares if they say no? Doesn't matter. There's like millions and millions and millions of properties for rent out there. So what I do is I just try to see several in a day. So when I started, I would just spend time on Saturdays and Sundays. That's the only time I could find, right? A few hours on the weekends. And I would just go look at whatever was for rent in my area. And I found that there's a 1 in 7 rule that really applies in this. And the 1 in 7 rule simply says that if you go look at 7 places, you're going to get one person that will say yes or seriously consider doing it. That's it, just a numbers game. I mean, can you go see 7 rentals or contact 7 people? It's not that hard. That's it. So let's talk about leases real quick because I know a lot of people have questions about leases. And everybody wants to talk about the no subletting clause. Brian, it says no subletting. Let me ask you a question. What is a sublease? A sublease is somebody who is signing their name and saying they are now responsible for paying the rent, right? And if they don't pay the rent, then you got to pay the rent. Is that what Airbnb is? No, of course not. It's not subleasing. When you stay in a hotel, are you subleasing the hotel because you're paying them to stay there? No, you're not subleasing the hotel. It's not a sublease, first of all. Secondly, if you don't like it, throw it out. There's nothing that says you have to keep whatever's in a lease in a lease. A lease is an agreement between an owner and the person that's renting from them. That's it. And whatever you want to put in a lease between you and the owner is allowed, assuming the owner agrees to it. So all you got to do is provide your own lease. And my lease is very simple. It's very standard like any other lease, except it tells exactly what I plan to do, one paragraph that explains what I plan to do. I'm going to have short-term guests staying in the property. I am responsible for the rent. No one else is. And then I get the owner to sign it. And if they're not willing to sign it, oh well, I just move on. I don't want to deal with somebody that isn't flexible and doesn't want to work with me. It's no big deal. And then beyond that, I've even got into month-to-month agreements, which are killer because then you don't have to sign a year lease. And there's many ways to do this. One way is you cut the owner in on the profit. You say to the owner, here's what I do. I'm going to give you your $1,000 a month that you're asking for plus 20% of the profits. Or you could do it the way I like to do it. I've done this before is I just say, you're asking $1,000 a month. I'm going to pay you $1,200 a month. That's definitely over market if you allow me to go month to month. And they're just like, oh my gosh, really? You're going to pay me that much? You'd be surprised. People will say yes for $200, and $200 doesn't mean anything to me in the scheme of things on what I can make on these things. So I have them sign that, and then we're off to the races. And then I just say, look, I need 60 days or 90 days notice. Either one of us can give the other notice, and that gives me time to, cancel taking reservations past that point, right? So it's that simple. So you can get as creative as you want to be with this, but that's how it is. So subleasing is clauses are just not an issue. That brings us to step 4. Step 4 is about stage. So what is staging? Staging is all about creating the hotel experience, right? We want to put the freebies in the place. What are freebies? Well, when you stay in a hotel, what do you expect? You expect to get the soaps and the conditioners and the shampoos and the, all of the coffee and all the goodies, right? Well, we're going to do all of that as well, just like the hotels do, but we're going to go above and beyond what even the hotels do. So what I like to do is I give a bottle of wine to every guest. I don't care if you stay one night, you're going to get a free bottle of wine. It blows people away. And I'm going to show how to do it. I'm going to show you guys how to do it for free. So what I do is I buy this wine in bulk at one of the wine bulk retailers like Total Wine. And I just go in there and talk to the owner or the manager and I say, hey, look, show me an incredible wine that most everybody loves and nobody's heard of, something that's brand new. So show me like a Merlot that everybody's going to drink, but it's got to be something that just came out in the last 30 days. And he'll walk me over to wine and be like, Brian, this wine has won awards. It's amazing. Everybody loves it. And then I'm like, how much? And he's like, $3.50. Now, if you're a wine snob, I'm sorry if I just offended you, but yes, you can get a good tasting wine for $3.50. And what I do is I put it out. I don't even put it out. My maids put it out because it's inside the maid closet. They put one out every single time before a guest checks in with 2 glasses. And then my virtual front desk sends them a message and says, hey, John, welcome to my city. Here's a bottle of wine. Enjoy it on me, Brian. And now John thinks he just got a message from Brian, and he loves me. And what that does with John is it creates shock, awe, love, and, of course, 5-star ratings, which is what we want. See how cool this is? And beyond that, we also want to do smart properties. We want to set up smart properties. And that, for example, that's what I call the keyless experience. And you can do this with Wi-Fi or electronic locks. Now, have you guys checked in a hotel anytime in the last, I don't know, 2 or 3 years? What if a hotel, when you checked in, gave you an actual key? An actual key. You look at them like, this is creepy, right? Because nobody uses keys anymore, but yet we somehow still use keys in the residential world. Well, I don't use keys, and my students don't use keys. Please just say no to keys. What we do is code-based entry, which means that when the cleaning crew shows up, they can put in a code. When the guest shows up, they can put in a code. We can change that code at any time. I can get access with a code. I can unlock the lock from my phone. I can unlock any property from my phone by pushing a button. How cool is that? This is where we're at today with these smart locks, and they're not expensive. And then I can tell the owner, guess what, owner? Nobody's going to get a key to your place. You're the only one that has a key because everything's code-based. So we're going to set these up on every single property. We're also going to try to set up Nest thermostats. Now, you don't have to do this right away. You can do this down the road as you start earning, on your properties. And the Nest thermostat is just, what it does is a smart thermostat that allows you to turn off the air or the heat instead of having it blazing when nobody's in the property, if it's vacant for a couple days. It will save enough money to actually pay for itself in just a couple months. And ultimately, what we're trying to do is eliminate going to the properties. All right? We're going to try to eliminate running all over town. Every time something happens, we got to go run over to the property. A guest is locked out. A maid can't get in to clean. I'm telling you, it's a giant hassle if you don't have keyless properties. So I tell people, you must do this. And this is one of the keys to the automated system that I talked about. That brings us to step 5. I know we're going kind of quick here. I got to move quick because I got a lot to tell you guys. So step 5 is list. And list is all about getting the listing up on Airbnb and getting the photos right. Now, people underestimate how important photos are. When you search on Airbnb and you put in a city, the only thing that comes up is a big giant grid of photos and descriptions. That's it. And if somebody doesn't love your first photo and click on it, you will never get them to book your property. That's all they see. So the first photo is absolutely the most important thing you could possibly do in your listing. What I tell people to do is get a professional photographer. Unless you are a professional photographer, I promise you your photos suck. I'm sorry, they just do. A professional photographer knows how to take wide-angle photos on a nice professional SLR camera with good lighting, just set it up and stage it properly and get the photos that we're going to get you more bookings. And so photos, I can't underestimate, I tell you how important they are. $100, it doesn't cost a lot. $300 to get a professional photographer, and the difference in the amount that you can make every month, you could spend $200 and make an additional $500, $600, $700 every month. So you have to get professional photos. You absolutely must. You also got to make sure your pricing is right. Some people think they make more money on Airbnb by charging more. That's not how you make more money on Airbnb. You make more money by charging less a lot of times, because you might price your property at $200 and you only book 10 days. And then meanwhile, your neighbor down the street prices the same exact property for $150 and they get 25 days a month booked. You make a lot more money, right? So pricing is very important, and learning how to do active pricing, which simply means that if you have days, the next couple days are vacant, like let's say it's Monday and Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday are still open, then you want to slash the price of those days. I'm talking by like 50% just to get them full. And that's where you start playing around with the calendar and learning how to do active pricing on the calendar. I like to talk about that and show how to do that. There's some very simple techniques to absolutely fill up your calendar. And beyond that, the descriptions are very important. The description, you want to have descriptions that just sizzle, that make people interested in clicking on your listing. And like I talked about calendar, I'm going to give you an example. An average host only gets about 55 to 67% occupancy. That means that they're only filling up like 55% of the days. I get 90 to 100% consistently. And the difference between these two obviously is stunning. This is the difference between making a few $100 extra a month cash flow or making $1,000, $2,000 or more. This is where the real money is. And the list step, it's all about maximizing the profit that you get from each and every one of your listings. And you do this by looking at every single one of those elements that I just mentioned. Once you get these dialed in, you supercharge your listing. I'm going to give you an example. There's a guy named Bill Geis. He's down in Florida. This guy's not an amateur. He's got 5 units on the beach in Florida. He actually runs his own bed and breakfast. He's been doing Airbnb for a while. He contacted me and said, Brian, I want to hire you for one-on-one coaching. He paid me a lot of money to coach with him on the phone, and I went and looked at his listing online, and I said, Bill, I looked at all 5 listings. I said, Bill, you, you need to improve these. There's nothing about your listings that would make me want to stay there. I've never seen your property. I've never been to that part of Florida. You just need my help. So we went through. I said, first of all, hire a professional photographer. Secondly, you need to stage your properties. So what I did is I said, see that little balcony that overlooks the ocean? You need to put a croissant and a steaming cup of hot coffee out there and take a beautiful photo of that with the ocean behind it. And then put the caption below it, say, this is the actual balcony. This is your view. And then see that bed? I want you to put nice fluffy towels on that bed and mints on the pillows and fluff those pillows up, add more. I want you to go in the bathroom, maybe fill the bathtub, the jetted tub up with bubbles and put some candles around it to kind of paint the picture. Does that mean you actually have to fill it with bubbles? No, not when the guest shows up, but it's just to stage the place. Does that make sense? Just like a hotel does. When you go look at a high-end hotel, those rooms, I mean, believe me, they spend a lot of money to get those photos right and to stage them. That's what we do. That's exactly what we do. So I did this with Bill, and I asked Bill the next month, I was like, hey, Bill, you still got some coaching calls here. I didn't hear from him. I didn't know why he didn't, set up his next call. He actually sent me an email. He said, Brian, we got our money's worth already from you. In fact, the next month we made over $7,000 in additional bookings. And then his bookings actually stayed at that higher level after that point, all because he changed his listing. And this was not an amateur guy. This is not a guy who, he was smart. He knew what he was doing, but he just wasn't doing it the right way. So my question to you is, how would you like to see me personally go in and actually improve listings? How would you like to see me do this for other listings? I'm going to show you how here in a little bit. That brings us to step 6. Step 6 is launch, and this is the money step. All right, this is where we actually make some money, right? This is the exciting step, because when we launch, what we need to do to launch is we got to get the messages simplified. We got to get all of those guest messages lined up, right? So they're ready to go out. We got to get fully mobile, so we can do this on our phone. We don't have to run back home or do it from an office. We also want to eliminate all the calls and texts. The calls and texts and the guests need to be helped, but we don't have to help them, right? The key is it's not about avoiding people and not taking care of people. They are going to have a great experience, but we're going to have our team take care of them. And this is about pushing go on the machine. This is saying, okay, go, make it live, and we're going to start getting bookings. And some of my students, as soon as they list, they're shocked that the same evening they list their property, they start getting bookings. They're like, oh my gosh, Brian, what do I do? I just got 3 requests. It's really exciting. And what you got to know is that if you don't address these launch techniques head on, you're losing a fortune. And I'm talking to you that might be listening that already has a listing on Airbnb. You're listening to me right now. You can make a lot more money if you follow these kind of ideas. But when you do, you gain bookings, you boost your rating, you build rave reviews, and ultimately you make more money. And that brings us to the last step, step 7, which is automate. Now this is the step that I get kind of geeked out about. I'm a nerd about. I love talking about automation. And automation is where you decrease your time investment by outsourcing. Okay? You've heard about outsourcing, of course. And you work on your business, not in your business. For example, properties get cleaned, but you don't clean them. Don't you ever clean a property. We don't clean our own properties. We just don't. Guests get help, but you don't help them. Things get fixed, but you don't fix them. Items get returned, but you don't find them. See a pattern here? So I'll give you an example, lost and found. And this used to drive me bonkers. A guest would leave behind their phone charger in one of my places. Then they email me back and say, can you mail it back to me, please? Oh, and by the way, I live, in Australia. So typically I'd go to the property, I'd search for the missing widget, I'd email the guest for their mailing address, go to the post office, message them back, hound them to please pay me back for the postage, and they either send me money or they don't, etc., etc. It is a big waste of time, right? And it's not just once. This is happening continually across all the properties. So what I did is I just outsourced it. I outsourced the entire process to a partner. And that partner actually made money by doing this. They found that there was a little side business they could do. And there are 2 ways that we can automate these kind of things. The first way is to delegate everything outside of business building to our partners. What is business building? Looking for the next property, looking for the next listing. That's it. That's what you want to focus on. Think of yourself as like a traffic cop with a whistle, and you're ready to blow that whistle if anything goes wrong or you need to adjust anything, but you're letting everyone else kind of handle everything, right? It's the idea of making 95 cents on the dollar and stepping back. So besides delegating everything, the second way to do it is you create a policy so nothing has to be handled a second time. So as soon as you see a pattern comes up and you say, oh my gosh, that's the second time I've had to deal with lost and found, then you make a policy and you figure out who can take care of this issue the next time so I don't have to take care of it. And if you're ruthless about this, relentless about this, then you start working less and less and less. It's a system. It's all about a system. So you might think, okay, what's next? Well, the next step is to repeat the 7 steps. That's it. Complete the process and start adding listings. Leverage your time, start leveraging your profit. And then you get what I call economies of scale. Economies of scale is where now you can go back to your cleaning company who's cleaning your places like crazy and say, do you realize how much I paid you this month? Do you realize how much money you've made off me? Am I your biggest client? And they're going to have to answer honestly, yes, actually, you are one of my biggest clients. Say, great, I need a discount. Like right now, please, I need to pay you less per cleaning. And you can go look at your e-locks and see that the maids are only in your place for 90 minutes. So you can say, oh, by the way, it only takes them 90 minutes to get in there. I don't know what you're paying your maids, but maybe you could charge me a little less. See how you got negotiating power? Because now you have scale. And you're going to focus on can I, constant and never-ending improvement in your business. That's what you're focused on. There are 2 paths to doing this thing. The first and the right way is to build an Airbnb machine that's capable of running without you most days. And the wrong way is to do anything yourself that could be delegated, outsourced, or automated. And the truth is, less than 1% of Airbnb hosts have more than 2 listings. Less than 1% of all hosts in the world. Why is that? Well, because there's an art and a science to building an Airbnb empire. Learning what does not work is just as valuable, I say it's more valuable than learning what does. There's a formula for success that's worked not just for me, but for my students around the world. And so my question to you is, what if you could create your own Airbnb business without having to own a single property? And do it by following a proven step-by-step formula that works. And start right now, no matter what your level of experience is. How confident would you be if I walked you through every single step of this process? So here's how we're going to do it. We are going to build your Airbnb business from start to finish together. And when you're done, you'll have your own very profitable listing on Airbnb. And I'm going to guarantee that it works for you, or the entire training's for free. I'm going to explain that here in a minute. So if you're tired of relying on income that only comes in if you go to work, if you want to get your first listing fast with a lot less effort, and if you want to learn the skill of creating semi-passive cash flow from multiple Airbnb listings without the need to own any property at all, then this program is specifically for you. So let me tell you about my B&B formula. My B&B Formula Masterclass is a completely online video masterclass that I teach. And what I do is I take you through each module. You learn each module in 1 week. And remember those 7 steps I showed you earlier? Each step we're going to talk about each week. So there's 7 steps plus the 8th step. We're going to go through an 8-week course together. So module 1, what we're going to do is we're going to put together the proper tools so you can scoop up those listings that I told you about. Others are not going to know how to get them or find them. And then we're going to build credibility with the owners so they just say, you know what, just shut up and take my property. All right? That's what we're going to do in week 1. Then in week 2, module 2, we're going to line up our partners in advance so when it's time to outsource, you can just push the go button and leverage yourself by using these partners. We're going to try to free up your time. Okay? Then in week 3, module 3, I'm going to give you the inside scoop so you can find only the types of properties that are the most profitable. And you're going to know exactly what to do when you get your first one so you can immediately get it earning on Airbnb. Then in module 4, I'm going to explain how to set up the e-locks that I told you about. You don't have to know how to install them. I'll show you how to do it. You can get somebody else to put them in. And then you can see who comes and who goes and who has access to your place. No keys, ever. And then how to furnish places. Like if you found a place that's unfurnished and you really want to scoop it up, how can you furnish it really, really inexpensively, quickly, and get that money right back in your pocket? I'm going to show you how to do that. That's the first 4 weeks. Now in week 5, module 5, I'm going to show you my photo hacks that I talked about so you can immediately boost your bookings. I'm going to show you the calendar filling method so you can get all the orphan days filled. What are orphan days? Let's say somebody comes in Monday through Wednesday, they leave, somebody doesn't come in until Friday. So now you got Wednesday night and Thursday night open, right? Excuse me. I'm going to show you how to fill those 2 days. Those are the orphan days. There's a very specific technique to fill every single orphan day. And when you do fill in all those days, I'm telling you, the cash flow goes just way, way up on your listing. Then in module 6, I'm going to talk about and teach you how to do the automated message setup. I'm going to give you the templates to use. I'm going to show you how you can set it up so your business can be run from your cell phone or anywhere in the world that you happen to be as long as you have a Wi-Fi connection. Then in Module 7, I'm going to help you coordinate these partners so they're talking to each other, right? There's multiple partners, multiple services that are all talking to each other and keeping the guests happy. They're happy, they're satisfied, they have no clue, all right? We're setting up and we're tuning your B&B machine so you can scale up the profits and not the hours worked. Then in week 8, we're going to refine and repeat. Remember, it's the 7 steps, and then the eighth step is to repeat. We're going to go do these 7 steps again, but this time on the next listing. So we're going to aim for constant, never-ending improvement in our business and begin scaling. And the goal is to have located your listing number 2, your second place, by the end of week 8. Now, it's designed to be done in 8 weeks. Doesn't mean you have to do it in 8 weeks. Some people are overachievers, and they're like, Brian, I want to do it in 3 days. I mean, I wouldn't recommend that, but you could do it in a few weeks if you wanted to. Some people get their first listing like within 2 or 3 weeks. And if you can't do it in 8 weeks, it's no reason you have to do it at this pace. It's just designed to be this way. What I did is I designed it so it wouldn't be overwhelming. It's just a few hours per week doing the lessons and just following along step by step. So you can do it slower or you can do it much faster. That's up to you. So I've shown you today, beyond a shadow of a doubt, that it's absolutely possible to create a simple automated Airbnb business that can make you well over 6 figures a year without the need to own a single property. And you've also seen that you can use this formula even if you're starting from scratch with no experience. So if you're ready now to learn the ability to create profitable Airbnb listings anytime you like and change your financial life forever in the process, here's how you can sign up for the program. The masterclass has already started and your first set of lessons are waiting for you, so you can just start right now if you like. Just watch the videos and follow along with me as we find and list your very first property together. And by the time the training's done, you should have located and set up at least 1 or maybe even more profitable listings. And so you might be thinking, okay, Brian, what about the price? Well, if you want to do one-on-one coaching with me personally, I charge $4,995. And if you were to go through and recreate all the lessons and the content and the 8-week training, it would cost you over $25,000 to produce everything. But today you can start for a fraction of that. In fact, if you want to get started today, it's only $597. That's for 2 payments, so $597 now, $597 in 30 days, or if you want to save $200 and pay $997 in full, that'll get you access in its entirety. There are no other costs involved. And you can do that by joining me right here. Just go to takeactionincome.com. Takeactionincome.com if you want to get started. Also, I'm going to leave that at the bottom, by the way. You can see it right there, Take Action Income. And I want to make this a completely safe decision for you, okay? So you're going to get my 2-part guarantee. I call it my B&B promise. The first part of my guarantee is a 30-day money-back guarantee. And the only thing I ask is just take some action, please. I just ask you to just do something, okay? This isn't like you do nothing. You got to just, can you watch the modules? I ask you to complete at least the first 4 modules, okay? Do that for me, and then do your homework in the modules. And if you do those things and it doesn't work for you, just send me an email in the first 30 days. That's the first part. Because my highest goal is to have you become one of the top 1% of Airbnb earners in the world and help you create an amazing new source of income and ultimately to build a killer business, not to sell you this training. And I'm going to prove it with the second part of my B&B promise. And here's the second part, and it's also like my challenge to you. If you follow along with the program, okay, and you find and list your first listing on Airbnb, just like I'm going to show you, and your listing is live on the site, send my team an email, support@bnbformula.com, anytime in the next 60 days with a link to your listing, and I'll send you $997 to cover the cost of the entire program. All right? So I'm going to pay you to finish the course and go change your financial future. Why would I do that? Well, I'm going to ask you for 2 things. I need the link to your listing. It can't be a listing that you had before you heard of me, please. It's got to be a new listing. And I want to share your success story. So you give me permission to interview you and find out how you did it, right? I want to hear your story. I want you to be able to encourage other people out there that are just starting and just finding out about this. So if you can give me your success story, you can do those 2 things in 60 days, you will get a full refund. So there's literally no way you can lose here. So here's how to get started. After you register and hit submit, you're going to be taken to the login page for the B&B Formula members. And you can start right away if you want to. Oh, and I have one more thing that I do want to show you guys. I was asked, could I do something, kind of special for you guys? Jeff was asking me, do you have anything that you can kind of give them that isn't normally included in the course? And so I did this training just recently with my students, and I thought, you know what, I could add this in. I'm just calling it my fast action bonus. And what this is my B&B Backstage training. Now this was something I charged $297 for, and what it is it's a backstage look at what goes on Airbnb. I'm going to take you in and show you the data and the information that you cannot find on Airbnb. What kind of data? Well, how cool would it be if you could put in your city or your town and it pulls up an entire map, a heat map, showing you where all the listings are located in that city. And not only that, you could click on every single individual dot and it will tell you what they're getting per night, per weeknight, per weekend, on the weekend nights. It's amazing. It'll show you the top host in your city, the top 100 hosts. You can even put in an actual specific address and it'll tell you what you could earn with that address. It's phenomenal. This is free data, by the way, but it's something you can't find on Airbnb. And I show you how to use that data to have an unfair advantage in the marketplace. Okay? This is just incredible training. I did all this with my students, and what I did is I just added it to the course. So it's inside the course. As soon as you go in there, the bonus is in there, and it's free. I'm not charging anything for that. Also, I have this other bonus that I wanted to add in. This is another training that I did. This is my Listing Boost Bootcamp. I charged $497 to attend this. And what this is where I actually take students' listings. Remember Bill Geist earlier that I talked about? Well, I take other students' listings and I throw them up on the screen and we just basically pull them apart. I'm ruthless. I'm like, look, here's how we're going to fix these. Because I know that if I can help them fix them, they're going to boost the amount of money that they make. So we go through actual student listings and you watch me go through line item by line item and every single element and improve those listings. So it's an entire boot camp training. It's also, I just put it inside the course. It'll be in there when you join. No charge for that either. That's an additional free bonus. Now this is the most important one. Now this is something that as far as I know, nobody really does this. I don't know if you guys have ever gotten any educational training courses before, but generally I'd say almost 100% of the time when you get something like this, you're on your own. You're basically on your own after that point. But that's not what I'm about, okay? I communicate with my students all the time. In fact, every single month I have a live coaching call. And it's me, it's not somebody else on the coaching call, it's me on the call. And what I do is all my students from around the world jump on this live call and we talk about all kinds of things. I answer any questions that come in. You can ask questions live of me right there. I have guests on the call, so I'll bring in 6 and even 7 income earners on the call. In fact, last month I interviewed a guy, has 62 listings on Airbnb, he grosses over $2 million a year. I mean, phenomenal interview. I bring in like CEOs of companies that are really, really important to our space that want to talk to you about really cool stuff that's happening and things that are going on in the marketplace, and it's like the latest tricks and tips and all of that kind of stuff. It's the second Tuesday of every month, without fail. I always do that. And I am limited on this, unfortunately, because it's a live call, and I already have my students currently that I'm working with. So I am limited to 100 people that want to join this if you want this, and this can only be right now on the live webinar. So if you guys want that, it's only limited to by the time the webinar is over. But if you want to join, I can add you to the group coaching calls. When you go into the course, you'll see that, and you can sign up. The next one's coming up very soon. I'm going to be broadcasting live from Central America. And so that's a $1,997 value if you want to just do the coaching calls by themselves, but that's an additional bonus if you join on the webinar. So I hope that'd be something that you guys would really like. And so I'm there for the next year for you. I'm there to be by your side as you build your business. So to recap, let me tell you again what you're getting. First of all, like I said, the 8-week online program, which is a video-based course, very similar to what you're seeing here with slides, and I'm going to go through and teach you each of those steps. It's a $1,997 value. You are going to get membership for life, so once a member, always a member, and the updates you're going to get for free. So anytime I add new content, fresh stuff into the course, you're going to get that automatically. You'll just open up your course and boom, there's something new in there. It's really cool. I have all the templates and the tools. Remember the landlord letter? Well, there's like dozens of those cool tools that you can use. That's a $997 value included in there. And you also get my deep dive video series. That's like a library of really cool topics that you can go more in depth into if you want to learn more about certain topics. And my tip of the day videos, which are awesome. It's just very short videos that take you inside each one of my properties. Like you can see the inside of them, and I'll say, okay, here I am in this property. I'm going to show you a really cool trick that I do in this property that you're going to want to do in yours. So that's really cool. And then I have the Empire checklists. The B&B Empire checklist is like for any of you that are like total nerds like me and you like to be completely organized, this is for you. In fact, I have a checklist for everything. I have one for the maids. You can just print the sucker out, tape it on the inside of the door where the maids go, where the closet is, And when they show up there, they know the 30 things they need to do to turn that property. So you don't have to think of them. Trust me, you won't know all the 30 things they need to do, but you can give it to them and say, this is what you need to do every time you show up at my property. So I have those kind of checklists that you can use. Then I also have my property profits calculator. I already told you you're going to get that for free. I will give you that for free just for being on the webinar. And then there's my coaching call vault. Now this is a vault that has every single coaching call I've ever done. And if you miss a coaching call, you can't be on that second Tuesday. It'll be in the course the next day. So it'll be right there for you to watch anything. It also has all my interviews I've ever done. Everything's inside that vault. And then additionally, like I said, you're going to have the B&B Backstage Training bonus, a Listing Boost Bootcamp, and most importantly, the 1 year of coaching calls added in there if you join on the webinar. So that's a lot of value, over $9,000 in value. And like I said, if you want to get started today, it's $597 for 2 payments. So $597 now, $597 in 30 days. Or if you want to pay in full, you will save $200 by doing that, and it's $997. Okay, so those are your options. Like I said, it's right there, takeactionincome.com. And I do have a really quick warning. Like I said, I got to close the group coaching calls to new students when the webinar is over for that